Hello, guys. Bob here for TNL Network. Welcome to Tuesday Night Live. Tonight's show will surely be crazy but entertaining, informative in substance but chaotic in its delivery. What I'm referring to is one dummy talking to, or should I say, for another. Puppetry in the entertainment world has been showing up in the Claus world more and more, and rightfully so. It pulls at the heartstrings of the children, and the parents get drawn in with the smiles and laughter of those children. It is a versatile tool that appeals to all ages, often used to create emotional connections with audiences. Puppetry has been around for approximately 4,000 years, and Santa was depicted in the 1860s Thomas Nast, Harper's Weekly image with a string puppet. The segment of tonight's show is brought to you by the North Pole Cornerstones, a new, unique, and entertaining 4-day educational experience. We are the Tuesday Night Live show.
Sorry, I'm having difficulties.
Everyone, please say hello in the chat to my crazy, sometimes over the top fun co host. And while you're at it, be sure and send some love to our gifted producer. Here they are, Spangle the Clown and Angela Mack. Whoa!
Oh, he disappeared.
He disappeared. How about that? Well, there's always something up at the Spangle household. You know how that goes. All right, so there he is. He's back. You know, you can experience us on your bigger screen while the experience comes alive on YouTube at the Tuesday Night Live Show 1225. Hello, Spangle.
Hello there. I forgot my lawn guy's coming, but I had to go block the dog door for my dogs don't eat the lawn guy.
Yeah, I asked him. We'll be out there dragging him around by his shirt tail.
That's right.
All right, so the first half of the TNL show trivia is brought to you by School of Santa's 2026, hosted by Spangle and picturesque Ozark Mountains, Branson, Missouri, where fun and education meet. We'll be right back. Tell you what, Spangle, we're getting close now. You know, I can smell July in the future coming on like a freight train, and it's going to be so exciting this year to be able to come back to Branson and have the ton of fun that we always have.
Yeah, and I got some neat things planned for this year too. I mean, the school's sold out, so if you didn't get in, there's a good chance you won't get in. But there's a house full of people that's going to be there, and I don't know. I think it's going to be fun. We got some surprises happening this year.
Yes, yes, yes. And you know what? It seems like each year, and I don't know how it can get any better because it's already over the top, but each year it just seems to run smoother and smoother, and we just have more and more fun. It's just like it's such a fun atmosphere from the get go until you walk out to come home. and we look forward to it every year.
And you know, we've been doing this for a while. It just kind of everybody has their place, you know.
Now, is this ninth year?
Yeah.
Yeah, ninth year
Well,
straight.
this will be the 8th year, but we've done 9.
Yeah, because of COVID.
Well, one year we did 2.
Well, that's true. That's true. I wouldn't
Yeah,
count that one.
nine sessions, but 8th year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it gets a little confusing right there for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
Hey,
let's go and get on with trivia.
oh, you don't know what you're saying," said Edgar Bergen. The dummy answered, "Yes, I do, Bergen. I can read your lips." So, what was the name of the dummy? Mortimer Snerd, Elpiner Clinker, Willie Talk, Charlie McCarthy, or E, none of them? Okay, but wait a minute. Wait. We have a bonus question here. Shari Lewis is best known for her most memorable puppet, nothing more than a sock. Oops. And eyes. I'll finish the question before I get some gluten to eat. What was the name of that adorable puppet? All right. Extra credit now, okay?
All right. Give them the choices there.
Oh, come on. Can't they just figure it out?
Oh, you
Okay.
know how they are.
Ramsey, Petuna, Lamb Chop, or Hush Puppy. And you know what? That's what I'm going to have to tell my dogs to hush because I went and fixed the door, but I forgot to close the front door, so they're right outside.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, anyways, okay, extra credit. She created the character in 1956 during her appearance on the television show. All right. So, anyways, let's get them going there.
We'll leave that up for a few minutes and let everyone kind of check that out and see it for just a second. Do you need to go get the dogs real quick?
Yeah, you want to talk for a minute?
I'll talk for a
All
second.
right, all right. Thank you. Thank you.
We got a great show tonight, guys. It's going to be fun, like I said, kind of chaotic at times, but I'll kind of tell a real quick story while Spangle's running to secure his dogs. Back during Gatlinburg, this gentleman was seen walking around the convention center with his puppet, and we were kind of having a rough day. And uh, it's funny how quickly you can be lifted by comedy. And he's funny. His puppet's even funnier, and so we're looking forward to tonight. And he's got a whole host of puppets, so it's going to be a fun show for sure. And you know, doesn't get out a lot. So if you happen to catch him at Gatlinburg, you know who I'm speaking of, and he's over on the East Coast. And uh, hey, that's all right if you don't get out much. Once you get retired, you are on a fixed income, as he mentioned to us, and it makes it a little bit harder to travel sometimes when you got bills to pay and all those kind of things going on. All right, so the trivia was on. Oh, you don't know what you're saying, said Edward Bergen. The dummy answered, "Yes, I do, Bergen. I can read your lips." What is the name of that dummy? We got that one up there. Shari Lewis is best known for her memorable puppet, nothing more than a sock and eyes. Need to know the name of the puppet, and the extra credit is what show did she debut in 1956? That puppet at or on. All right, we're back and
All
ready
right.
to get some nice guests.
Yes. Okay. All right, guys, let's go and see if our guests, if our have any questions or anything for our guests tonight. Did we get that far yet?
Not quite.
Okay. Hey, tonight on TNL, our special guest has appeared one other time on TNL, and that was during our costume contestants of our annual Halloween extravaganza last October. Tonight, he gets to appear at his normal self. Normal might be stretching the word. Whatever that may be, he has been a singing telegram messenger, dancer, MC, stand-up comic, singer, puppeteer, wood carver, leather carver, disc jockey, and his latest persona is now Santa Claus. He first donned the red suit in 1981, although he took a 40-year break before putting the suit back on again. Please give a huge round of applause for Ken Kringle.
Oh, hello there. Yes,
Santa
of
Claus.
course it's me, Santa Claus. Now, you may not believe this, but one of the questions I get asked the most is, well, not how I do it all in one night, no, but where do I get my themes from? What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the finest things I have. My glorious gloves, my knickknacks, my trinkets and things. Yes, all the giveaways. Yes, for me to give to the children before the main event. I like to have something in my pocket I can treat them with. And there's one magical place where I can find all these magical goods. That is, of course, stuffforsanta.com. You should head there now and see what magical gifts you can find. Mrs. Claus, have you got my ice pad? I'm going to go have a look. I shall see you there. Stuffforsanta.com.
Love it, love it, love it.
Angela, you didn't think you hit the wrong button, did you?
Yeah, I thought we were at the end.
And Angela's over there scrambling looking at the script. I wasn't supposed to hit that button yet.
That was good. I mean, like, you really sound just like him.
Oh,
Yeah, that was good.
Great advertising.
it's not the. I've only heard that commercial like 500 times so far. In the
At least.
You,
We've been asked by a couple of people, not many, because I think everybody still enjoys that commercial. But we have been asked a couple times, well, when is Spangle going to get a new one? I said, what do you want a new one for? You know?
When I first started hearing that, I thought it was Stuart Deacon Jr. doing it. Later on, y'all talked about it, and I go, Deek.
yeah, yeah. I think it's a great commercial. I think he did a great job on
Well, obviously, you've impressed me.
it.
So, how does that make your brain feel, Spangle?
Hey, I'm digging it. I'm digging it. I think we should have filmed that one and used it for the new commercial.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. My brain hurts after hearing that intro, and there was so much going on. But I thought I'd heard you were a disc jockey. That sounds kind of cool. How come you got out of that gig?
Well, it was kind of cool, I'll be honest with you. And I don't have a whole lot of formal training in my background from the entertainment perspective, something that, kind of comes natural. But I did go to the Columbia School of Broadcasting. And you can't tell, I woke up hoarse this morning of all days. But anyway, and so after going to the Columbia School of Broadcasting, I became Cody Stevens. And I was a country music disc jockey, and I was in small mid market here in Middle Georgia. And you're right, it was a cool job. People calling in, man, you sound great, love to see you, and all that kind of stuff. And you're kind of popular. But as wonderful as it may seem to the outside, you're working a 4-hour shift, 6 days a week, making $10 an hour. So $240 a week. It was hard to live on. So I scrapped that and became a WMS systems engineer and started doing some mobile disc jockey work and that kind of thing. But the reason I'm out of it, Spangle, money.
Money. Yeah, going to that website, stuffforsanta.com, kind of takes a little bit too much of your money.
Yeah, I always say Spangle gets a little piece of all of us. That's for sure. Well, you said you woke up some morning hoarse. I can understand that since you were out pulling turkey calls all weekend, turkey hunting. If you can get out of the field and quit acting like a horse, you might, be able to get a turkey or two.
Well, it's funny. One of the things you do when you're turkey hunting is you owl hoot to kind of get them to gobble.
Uh-huh.
And I've bought. I was always a gadget junkie, so I had every kind of gadget you could ever find, to go hunting or hiking or whatever I was doing. But I have gotten more turkeys to gobble with just my voice. Doing that, and and it's a lot less stuff to carry around.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. All right, let's go ahead and jump in here. In the introductory, Spangle mentioned that you first put on a suit back in 1981 and then took it off for 40 years. Had a little layoff there. I like to do that Texas math, but I need some help wrapping my head around this one. Can you explain to the viewers how this happened?
Well, sometimes some Santas want to go out, I've been a Santa for 20 years. So I only kind of really throw that one out there when I need to tell them I've been a Santa for 46 years.
Yeah.
But how that came about was I was stationed in San Antonio, Texas when I was in the Air Force. And back to money, Airman First Class didn't make all that much money, so everybody had a part-time job, waiters and waitresses, and doing different things, stocking shelves in a grocery store, whatever you could get. Well, I went to work for Eastern Union Singing Telegrams, and I was a singing telegram messenger. I did Devilgrams, I did carriage called Zero, and so at Christmas time, I did Santagrams. And so in the Air Force, I couldn't have a beard, so I put on a fake beard. I had a cheap $60 suit, and I went around doing Santagrams, mostly, reading "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." I didn't know what I was doing. I was approaching it from a singing messenger kind of a thing, and so I was doing Santagrams, and so then when I stopped working for Eastern Union and all, I didn't continue in that thing. And one of the things that somewhat now in my Santa persona that kind of bothers me a little bit, I guess, about that. Now, I was 20 years old. I didn't know any better. In those days we didn't have cell phones and stuff. You had to take the picture with a real 35 millimeter camera or the little 110s.
Right.
And I had a house fire a number of years ago, and I kind of lost all my pictures, but I still had this one picture I can still remember. I was holding this newborn baby, and I'm looking down at the baby, and right up here is a tuft of dark black hair sticking out. And so I kind of think back to that, using that as inspiration to not be that guy, to try to be a real Santa Claus from this point forward.
It is important to look in the mirror before you go out in public, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of similar answers when we ask how someone became Santa. Asked to put on the suit for an office party, a neighborhood party, school party, or so forth. And then they get bitten by the bug. In your case, you refer to it more as a calling. Can you tell us all about how that went about?
Yeah, and I've heard that. A lot of people get, hey, you was fit the suit, put it on, and then, one thing leads to another, and they become Santa and stuff like that.
A lot of times it's my wife had me do it.
Yeah, my wife had to do it, neighborhood party, whatever the case may be. But I did not set out really at the beginning to be Santa Claus at all. And the reason I kind of refer to it as a calling is that when my wife's daughter, she got into some issues, chemical dependence kind of stuff. She had a 2-year-old boy, our grandson, and one night there was this gang-related activity, and there were guns involved and stuff, and he was there a minute before that happened. And so we said, this is not a good situation for him to be in. And so we went to court, went through the child services and all that, and we got custody of him when he was 2 years old. And during this time that we were raising him, I had a Widowmaker heart attack. And Bob and I talked about divine intervention and things of that nature before, and how people have these thoughts. And I don't know what your belief systems are, so it doesn't. I won't speak to any of that. But when I was having my heart attack, I asked my wife. I said, "Do you have some aspirin? I need to put aspirin on my tongue." And I had a 100% blockage of my upper LED. And I knew if I passed out, I was going to die. And so I couldn't tell the 911 operator my address or any of that stuff. So she took the phone, and it happened at 10 o'clock at night. She wanted to go to bed. She wanted it's indigestion. Let's talk about this tomorrow. But she said, well, you call 911, you're going to hospital. If I hope this doesn't embarrass you too much. And so the 911 operator told her to get some aspirin. She said, "We don't have any." And then she remembered that back in November, she had used some aspirin in the beans to keep it from being so gaseous to the guests. And so it was buried up in the spice counter, whatever. She went to the cabinet, opened the door, and that bottle of aspirin fell out, hit her in the chest, landed upright on the kitchen counter, label facing her. And so, and so one thing led to another. I was 5 miles from the hospital, and a surgeon from a different hospital was walking by, saw me, said, "This guy's going to die in 2 minutes. Get him to the ER." Just strokes of luck happened, and so I kind of felt I had a calling that it was my duty to get that young man from being two up until adolescence or whatever. I had to get him up and grown. That was my calling. I think that's why I was spared. And so his mother wound up out in San Francisco, California, got the help that she needed, and is 8 years clean and sober, but at the time was 4 years clean and sober. And he was turning 12, and so we said, on a trial basis, let's go ahead and get him back with her, because he never lost that bond with her. And this happened in November. And so he was 12 years old. So for 10 years, we raised him. I did my duty and everything. I believe I was called to raise him. Well, Angela, did you get that picture that I sent you earlier? On Because during COVID, this guy right here, during COVID, I have 400 chestnut trees, and my wife and I said was working remotely, and I said, and she said, "Let's grow your beard out. Let's see if you look like Santa Claus, and we can sell the chestnuts at Warm Springs and these places as Mr. and Ms. Claus." So I didn't go at it from the perspective of doing this for the children. I was doing it to sell chestnuts. And so when my beard grew out, if you see that picture there, it was still dark around the mouth area. When I looked in the mirror, I did not see Santa Claus looking back at me. And so that's when I developed this character, Ken Kringle. And you see I was wearing the wrapping paper coats and the funny hat there. And so I created a character, Santa's brother, Ken Kringle. Santa drinks too much eggnog, I deliver the toys, he gets all the credit. And so I was doing that for a couple of years. And in the December, after we had let my grandson go back to his mother, my wife, I was in this very outfit right here. And my wife said, "Would you stop by Walmart and pick up a few grocery items?" I said, "Okay." So I walked into Walmart, and actually I bought the hat on that very day. It was in the shopping cart. I hadn't even bought it yet. And so as I was heading into the grocery department, there were four couples, four men, four women, all appeared to be in their early 70s, and they were standing in the ladies section just off to the side of the avocados. And but on the other side of the aisle, there was a lady, late 20s, early 30s, that I suspected was one of their daughters. And in her shopping cart, she did not have any groceries. There was a special needs girl, about 4 years old, sitting there with a Little Mermaid umbrella that was open in the cart, just her and that umbrella. And as I walked by, this hat was actually in my cart, and she got up, grabbed the side of that shopping cart, got on her tippy toes, and was trying to get to me. And I just had walked past her, and I said, "Ding, light bulb." She did not see Santa's brother. She just saw Santa Claus. So I went over, knelt down beside her shopping cart, started talking to her. I put this hat on before I spun around. I knelt down and I started talking to her. That was kind of my first real Santa visit, if you will. And when I'm talking to children, I have them kind of laser focused in on them, but I could see out of the peripheral that all these people, all these shoppers in Walmart had surrounded us and had their cell phones out and were videoing, taking pictures and all this kind of stuff. And I had the 4 or 5 minute visit with her. And for my singing telegram stuff, you make your exit. And so when I told her it was kind of time to leave, I headed down the frozen food section and all, but I stuck my head back out of the aisle one more time to blow her a kiss. And by now she got to the end of that shopping cart. She was now holding that. She was trying to get out of that shopping cart and get to me. So I made my disappearance. And we were kind of coming out of the COVID stuff, and nobody, we didn't even decorate that year for Christmas. Nobody was in the Christmas mood. I was kind of doing this. I was trying to get in the Christmas spirit. And after that encounter with that special needs girl, I couldn't get it out of my head. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And so I started watching videos on, Charles W. Howard, some of the other schools that are out there. A lady that does I don't know if it's Cherry Hill or whatever, but she was doing the stuff at her home in Denver and stuff. And so I started watching all these Santa schools. Amazon.com had one on a school here in Atlanta. And that next spring, I went to my first Santa school, and I felt like we'd given my grandson back in November, and that 2 weeks later, I felt like that special needs girl called me to be Santa Claus. And so I approach it from that perspective, that I'm here to do that work, and it gets me. So yeah, I feel like I went into it to sell chestnuts and wound up getting my heart just pulled out of my chest.
All right, I'm going to throw up this real quick. It was pertinent to kind of where we was at in the show real quick. Pat Wesson here in North Texas says, worked as a DJ, got fired in Louisiana, went to Elkins Institute, Dallas, got $1.60 an hour.
There you go. Well, I was making $4 an hour at the first station I was at.
Little job just don't pay enough to even eat beans and bread, does it?
Oh no, it's fun work, but it doesn't pay.
Santa Scott wants to know which was your first school. I believe that was Rick's, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Rick Rosenthal, Scott. Okay, well, I think the community is lucky that you had that chance encounter, but the jury is still out on that one.
Yeah.
You have rather over-the-top personality, I guess you would say. How in the world did you come up with your Santa personality?
Well, Bob, it's kind of and you'll see probably throughout the course of the night here, it's kind of like a lot of the other things I do. I did not plan my personality. I know some people, put on their radio voice while they put on the suit and that type of thing. But I didn't sit down and say, here's how my character's going to be. He's going to look like this. He's going to be regal, or he's going to be over the top funny, or what have you. But after I went to school, I didn't see. I always thought you had to naturally turn gray, and some people had it, and some people didn't. But once I had that encounter, and I went to school, I was like, you could bleach your beard? Oh wow! And so when I bleached my beard out and everything, and I looked in the mirror and put on the suit, I'm like, it was a metamorphosis. I didn't recognize the guy that was looking back at me.
Isn't that strange how that happens?
Yeah, there was a switch that flipped, and and if you've kind of heard me do Santa Claus, I kind of do an English accent. So, oh, hello, Ken Kringle here. Yes, oh yeah. And so this character that comes out when I put on the red suit is something I would say it's a mixture between Edmund Gwynn from Miracle on 34th Street. And if you know Professor Marvel, who played the Wizard of Oz in The Wizard of Oz, if you remember the scene where he's in the wagon talking to Dorothy under the bridge when she first runs away. So if you took Edmund Gwynn, put him in a blender, if you put Professor Marvel from the Wizard of Oz, put him in a blender, and mixed in just a little bit of Willy Wonka, strike that, reverse it, and threw Willy Wonka in there with him, and turned that blender on and poured that into a red suit, and there I am. And that's the best way I can describe it. I don't know how it happened. It just did.
All right. Well, in addition to portraying Santa, you do a lot of things like wood carving, leather carving, prop making, and such. Have you always been this artistic?
Short answer is no. But we have an hour show, so let me do the long answer. But like I said, this is the longbow I made. I carved this myself, and Another thing that I did is I made my own arrows. I actually did flint knapping like the Indians did, and I made this arrow. These are turkeys from turkey feathers from a real turkey I got. So I do that. I do leather carving and stuff like that. The little arm bracers, your naughty or nice books like that. Get it turned right. Other things I've done, I made my own knives and things, and so I do all kinds of crafty things. I do a little wood carving here, like that Santa Claus. I carved that out of a piece of basswood, and so I told you a little bit ago I had a widowmaker heart attack back in 2015, and earlier in my life, let's say before the heart attack, if I painted something, the art teacher would say, "Well, that's a lovely Picasso." I'm like, it's supposed to be real photorealism, that kind of thing. If I try to do something artistic, it looked terrible. My grandmother took me to a mountain kind of a show up in Asheville, North Carolina one year, and a guy had cut out little wooden blocks with like dogs and cats and chickens and all that stuff on a bandsaw, and then you're supposed to carve it into whatever that animal was. And so she got me a little dog, and I went back and I thought, I'm going to whittle me a dog. It looked more like an anteater by the time I got done with it. So I
Hey, it
didn't.
still had four legs.
Well, it actually only had three. The knife slipped, but I still had three of my fingers. But anyway, before my heart attack, I did not have an artistic bone in my body. I don't know. I couldn't do anything artistic. I've always been a bit of an entertainer. I got my first ventriloquism doll in the 70s, and I used to do magic and all that. Did a disc jockey, puppet ministry, and all these things. So I've always kind of had that, but from an artistic standpoint, not so much. But then after my heart attack, I started drawing Angry Birds with my grandson. I started doing these wood carving things. I don't know how. I can't explain it. I don't know where this artistic stuff came from. Some people say when you die and they revive you, these things happen. But I didn't pass out. I never lost consciousness when I had my heart attack. So I don't know why the switch flipped at that point, but it did, and I do these things now, and so I guess it's just a talent that got revealed I never knew I had.
So were the Angry Birds the kids' cartoon that used to be out there, or
Yeah.
are those the turkeys that you're shooting at?
Uh, well, they're only angry if I don't miss,
Yeah.
but they're also delicious. I,
Yes.
I turn them into Chick-fil-A nuggets.
I have a question for you, Ken. Do you ever get frustrated when you're doing your leather craft or your carving? I mean, it takes a lot of patience.
Yeah, I've got one belt here. It was kind of the original one that I did.
Uh huh.
It looks like this, and it's got all of these different colors where you got the ox blood for the berries and the leaves and stuff. And thankfully, people don't order this one quite as much as they used to, because it takes me about 24 hours to do it. Because when you start touching dye to leather, it runs. It's like trying to paint a paper napkin because of all the veins that are in there.
Praise
And so
out.
you have to start out here and work your way in. And just when you get where you need to be, your paintbrush is empty. So that one's very tedious. And also, once you make a mistake in leather, there's no eraser. It's there. When you dye it, it's dyed, and you do something called casing leather where you wet it, and if you indent it, it's there. I've actually taken where you do this thing and make it look like stitching, and it slipped, and I went, "Whoop," and there went that's just take $80 and throw it out your window. So yeah, I have made mistakes. It's very very tedious work.
Randy Wagner says, "Incredible belt. He'll take one."
Oh, I should have shown him an easier one.
I think he's saying Michael Howes. So
Hey, how about that one instead?
yeah, Michael's proud of his, so he's been showing it off, and I'm sure Randy has seen it. So
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't when I I try to. I don't have a whole lot of time because I don't. I do most of my stuff by hand. I can only do 10 or 12 a year, so it's not like so. It's not like I just sit in this thing and crank these out.
Yeah.
So I only kind of post on Facebook, every now and then. I try not to get too much. I do more than I can bite off more than I can chew. So when I put Michael's on the Facebook, I didn't mention his name or anything at all, but I guess the word gets around. So yeah, but that was having one for the Kringle brother. That was an honor.
Randy says, sure, that's perfect. Okay, now this is very interesting here. Now, you and I talked about this. I saw that you sold a wolf vest for your appearance at the Great Wolf Lodge. Is sewing also something that is one of your skills that you picked up?
Well, I think what you're referring to is that vest right there.
Uh-huh.
Because at the Great Wolf Lodge, I got to thinking, I got some of these old world suits. And I couldn't find there's no toy maker vest that looks like that. Uh, here's another toy maker vest I sewed. But I'm going to tell you one thing about this. When you say, is it a skill I have? I'm going to just put it to you this way. Sewing is something I do, but it's not something. It's not a skill. And
Yeah.
one of the things I always do, because I'm crazy over the top, and I know I do a lot of things, and some people may, wow, that is pretty cool. But the one thing that I think is important for everybody in the Santa community, because when the party doesn't start until Santa's there, and everybody wants to take our picture and talk to us and see us and all this kind of stuff, and we're kind of the center of attention, and that can get you up here. So the one thing I always try to do is stay humble, and sewing is something that keeps me humble. I don't know if you can see my sewing machine back here. I started out with just a Singer, and sewing has been one of the hardest things to pick up. Trying to read the patterns and stuff, and I don't have anybody I think if I had somebody to teach me, I'd probably do better at it. But I have ripped out more seams, started over. I got a pair of pants I was sewing because I'd like to sew my own suit one day. It looks like a pair of clown pants. I need to call Lee Andrews and say, "Hey, you want a pair of clown pants? I just made some by accident." So, Bob sewing, I'm not going to call that a skill if you don't mind.
Well, since you work at Great Wolf, maybe you need to get rid of that Singer and get you a howler.
Oh,
I'm not as funny as Spangle, sorry.
oh yeah, my dogs. I have dangerous animals right here. You speaking of the howler? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is one of the newest additions here at the Great Wolf Lodge, and his name is Hal. And they're like, oh yes, Hal. It's not Hal. It is Hal. Okay, Hal. No, it's Hal. HOWL. Camp Hal. Woohoo, yes. So you can use puppetry for stuff like that. But that's my howler.
That's the kind of the way I used to when I did puppets. I would let the puppet talk to me. That way, I wasn't having to try to do the ventriloquism.
Yeah.
This kind of whispering that I would say out what the puppet was saying.
Yeah, I do that like Great Wolf Lodge, and he gets out there, and I make him look. It's hard to do this on the camera here, but I kind of make him come to life, and when I get down to the point that his name's Hal, but I'm trying to spell it Hal, Hal, and it's Camp Hal. Well, the managers go, "Hey, that's great advertising." I should have been in marketing.
Yeah. Okay, on our Halloween show last year, you came on as Kenny Wonka, and I saw you walking around Gatlinburg at the Santa Memory Reunion as that character. Where did the Kenny Wonka character come from?
Well, I think you're going to see a recurring theme, like I told Bob early on an earlier question. When we were up in Gatlinburg, there's lots of Santas walking around and everything, and I was out front with another Santa, and he was worried about these children. Who's going to be the real Santa? How are we going to do it? And I said, don't worry, because there was this a mother and a father, and they had a boy who was maybe 6, 5, 6, something. The daughter was like 4, 3.5, 4, something like that, or whatever. And I told him, don't worry about it. I have an idea. And so when they came by, I told him, you be Santa and just play with me. And so he was like, he was, Santa Claus and had the coin and everything. And I told him, and, they wondered if I was Santa Claus. I said, oh, no, I'm Kenny Wonka. I'm Willy Wonka's nephew. Now, he has all these candies he has to deal with. And so I only handle the Christmas candy. But one day I hope I'll take over for him. He can't go on forever. And it's like, I came to see Santa Claus because, well, we had a problem with the candy canes. They look like sevens instead of little hooks. So if you don't give me a moment. And so I went over to that Santa Claus and I told him, the Oompa Loompas have assured me that by October, everything has been worked out. We will be caught up in production, and we will have the candy canes to you by Christmas. He said, thank you. And I looked over, and that little girl was grabbed a hold of her mama's leg, and she was looking out the side of it and watching me and Santa Claus work out the problem with the candy canes, and the parents were over the top. And so it was actually in front of the convention center in Gatlinburg last year. That's where boom, Kenny Wonka appeared out of nowhere.
They got a comment here from Trish Viznicki. Wow, you're so multi-talented.
It was so great meeting you.
Oh, it was so great meeting you at Santa Family Reunion. Where's your treat tonight?
I got a story about the Evergreen Queen. That
We all got a story about the Evergreen Queen.
Here he is. This tree here
Excuse me.
was actually a puppet that Joe Barney had at the swap and buy and sell and all that kind of stuff. And I walked by it, and my wife goes, "Oh, what do you think of this?" I said, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. But this tree, she said, Ken, there's something about that tree. It speaks to me. I think you need it. And I said, nah. And so she said, give me some cash. I'm going to go talk to you need that tree. I'm going to go talk to it. So my wife went there. Joe Barney still had it. And she made a deal with him, whatever. She turned around and said, this is now your puppet. And so when I looked at him, his eyes looked sad, and I instantly said, "Oh, hey, he's blue. He's sad and blue." He said, "Oh, he's a blue spruce," and so the wheels had started turning, and I walked out of the room where they were doing the swap, and there was the Evergreen Queen. "Oh, can I interview you?" And so I just improv'd the little blue spruce tree right there in front of the Evergreen Queen. And it seemed to work. It came to stick. See, everything. A lot of what I do comes off improv, and so when I got home from Gatlinburg, I sat down and I wrote the story of the little blue spruce tree, and I've written another one like the Christmas butterfly and stuff, like children's books, but I have no idea how to get them published and illustrated. And I tried to illustrate them on Chat GPT, but it kept changing the characters from picture to picture and all. So I had that story in my repertoire. So when I got asked to entertain at the Great Wolf Lodge, I said, I will convert that story into a puppet script. And so I now have 3 of them. And what I did, I got with Jill at Prince Puppets, and I had her, because I didn't want to use Joe Barney's. I got him to autograph it and everything, so I have that safe is safekeeping. And so I had Jill at Prince Puppets make me 2 of them. One, he has no decorations, no star on top, and he's sad. I'll have a blue Christmas without you. And so we have this little sad blue spruce tree. And then as part of my act, I go over and I start decorating him as I'm telling the story that I wrote. And then when I turn around and I pull out this one, and he's all decorated, and you wouldn't believe the oohs and ahs. And then we do I have all the children there in the lobby do a countdown. I says, because every tree needs a tree lighting ceremony. So we go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boop. And he's got working lights. And so,
Nice.
and so these puppets and the story of the little blue spruce tree originated when I walked out of the swapping shop and bumped into the Evergreen Queen, and I improv'd that for her interview, and that stuck and carried on. So she's partially to blame for that.
Well, it's strange where inspiration comes from, but you know what? Once those creative juices start to flow, you never know what's going to come out next. Now, one of the other things I remember, actually, can't get it out of my head. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Was the rabbit puppet you were walking around with in Gatlinburg. We were having some, on the road difficulties like we always do. And you and the rabbit were cracking me up, and it just made me feel so much better. How is Boggs Bunny doing?
Well, Bob, you wouldn't think I'd come on TNL without Boggs Bunny now, do you? I remember up in Gatlinburg, you was having some technical difficulties. You was a sad sack. But you got it all worked out, and I hear that you ran into a scientist back in Dallas that crossed poison ivy with a four-leaf clover. And ever since then, you've had a rash of good luck.
I'm stealing that one.
That was pretty good.
Greatness. Absolute greatness.
Hey, Bob, you know what rabbits do best?
What?
Mathematics. We are good at multiplication.
Yeah, I can understand where that comes from.
As a matter of fact, I got so many children. One of my boys came home the other day and introduced me to his imaginary girlfriend. I said, "You can do better than that." He said, "Gee, thanks, Dad." I said, "I was talking to your girlfriend."
Oh, my goodness.
Puppets can say a lot of things that we can't.
Yeah, that's true, too. Very true.
Well, it's good seeing you again, Bob, but I gotta go. My daughter, she was at school today and drank an entire bottle of invisible ink. She's at the ER now, waiting to be seen. Invisible ink, waiting to be seen. You might want to explain that one to him. It's not in the script. See you, Bob.
Goodbye, Boggs. Oh, man. Trish says, I also interviewed you and Boggs Bunny. You are a character and a half. Very true. You know what? I think at this point we probably need to go off and take our break and see the other Santa commercial, and we'll be back on the other side with more of Ken Kringle and his craziness.
My cheeks hurt now. Okay.
Oh, hello there. Yes, of course, it's me, Santa Claus. Now, you may not believe this, but one of the questions I get asked the most is, well, not how do I do it all in one night? No, but where do I get all my things from? Yes, now, what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the finest things I have. My glorious gloves, all my knickknacks and trinkets and things. Yes, all the giveaways. Yes, for me to give to the children before the main event. Yes, if I see them in the streets, if they come and see me, I like to have something in my pocket I can treat them with. Yes, and there's one special place where I can find all these magical goods. And that is, of course, stuffforsanta.com. You should head there now and see what magical gifts you can find. Mrs. Claus, have you got my ice pad? Yes, log me on, I'm going to have a look. I shall see you there. Stuffforsanta.com. Merry Christmas.
Well, Spangle, what new you got going on over at Stuff for Santa?
What do we have new? Oh man, we got some cool things. I mean, I wasn't even gonna show nothing, but I got these in today. These are really cool. They will probably go on our website here in a day or two. Uh, Look at this for the ladies. I don't know how well we can see this.
Oh yeah.
Antlers with the red stone in the middle, little artificial diamonds up there, almost a couple little eyeballs right there.
Subtle but nice.
Yep, we have another one too, a little more subtle maybe. I got these in today. I haven't even showed them nowhere, but you asked me. It's kind of hard to.
Yeah. But I think we can make out what it is. Antlers with the
Yeah, with another little red stone in there. Yeah, they're
metal.
real pretty. I've showed them to a couple of people, but I haven't put them online, and they're digging them.
Well, there you go, ladies. Reach out and grab some of those when he puts them online.
Got boot bells in today too. But
Nice.
we got lots of things. You know, we're always one thing about us. We don't let things sit idle. We're always coming out with something new, trying to. And our credit card skins. Now we have them for the diversified Santa too. I had several requests for that, so we got those out there now too.
Very nice.
Very nice. I just picked them up today. Hey, anyways, you showed us a few of your puppets, and we know you do puppets at the Great Wolf Lodge. How many puppets do you have?
Just in this bag alone, or well, I got Zoomer from the Planet Bizarro. Let's see, I got my rabbit. You know, when I taught puppetry last fall at Santa School, I was kind of go through it because I wanted to do this big display on the table behind me, you know, of all different kinds of hand puppets and regular 30-inch puppets and finger puppets and all this kind of stuff. And I think I narrowed it down to 18 to 24 that I took with me, and a lot of them didn't make the cut. So I don't have an exact number, somewhere around 50. But my wife, she'll look at me because there's always other puppets you see that you don't have that you'd like to have. And I got a good story for that I could probably do with that. And my wife came to me, she says, "How many puppets do you need?" And I said, "Well, just one more." And so I got a new one for a story that I'm in the process of writing now for this upcoming season. And she says, "All right, now how many more puppets do you need?" I said, "Well, just one more." So it's never enough, Spangle. Well, how about we say that?
I get it. We have tubs of puppets too, so yeah, different. Buy them for different projects and different things we wanted to do. Okay, but anyway, how in the world do you incorporate that many puppets into a routine?
Well, actually, you can't, put that many puppets into a routine or whatever and all. But one of the things, the reason I kind of like to have different puppets is you never know what's is striking you at a given time and what have you. And every one of my puppets has a different story. Like my first puppet here that I used my first Santa season, he's a little green forest creature. His name's Spruce. And I did a story with him because he wants to be like everyone else because he's different. Obviously, he's green. And there's a story out there, a book called "It's Okay to Be Different." And so, the puppets you can kind of do stories for children that are fun and entertaining, but have a good message that they can take. Some people. They're kind of traditionalists. Well, we do "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" every year and all this stuff. And it's just tradition. But although I do puppetry every year, I do like a magic show, a puppetry thing, prop stories, and that kind of thing. So I have some of the same segments, if you will, in a visit, but I try to change it up and use different puppets. And puppets kind of have different purposes. So like some of these, bigger ones that I have here for this is one I did one year. His name is Squeakers. "Pleased to meet you. Nice talking to you, Sparkles." His name is Spangle. Spangle, Sparkles, whatever. But and so he's got that northern accent. But we did this story right here, "The Mouse's Night Before Christmas." And so, every year I like to swap it up and do a different story. So you can incorporate them that way. One of the other things that I do is I carry a hand puppet in my go bag, but I may not always be right there and able to get it. And so I have little finger puppets that are always in my pocket. I have that one and this one for like little girls. There's always tomorrow for dreams to come true. And so the little girls like that. If you have a scared child, that could disarm them. And so I always kind of have something in my pocket so I can incorporate them that way. And then if I can get over to my bag, I have one that's more medium size here. And tell them what I am. You're a dinosaur. No, what kind of a dinosaur am I? Well, we don't have time to get comments from all the viewers. How about I just ask Bob and Spangle? Well, okay. What kind of dinosaur am I? Well, I'll give you a clue. He's got little bitty short hands up here. Do you all know what kind of dinosaur this is?
T-Rex.
Nope. Tell him. No, you tell him. I am a unicornosaurus. I only have one horn, see? And nobody ever guesses unicornosaurus because I made that up. And he only got one horn. I let the kid play with it. And so you can incorporate the puppet by just having this in your bag, and you can play with the kids. The parents get a hoot out of it. And if the child is now starting to come in and talk and interact with your puppet, they're not like focused on Santa. So sometimes that's how you can use the puppet to get in that child's sphere. And after a minute or two of this, they may start getting over that fear and be more comfortable with you from that point forward. So you can incorporate puppets through performance, disarming the children, or just having something in your pocket for walking around. So lots of different ways to incorporate them. And then with that thing, we even did Dinosaurs Night Before Christmas. And so you can incorporate them to help you tell a story, not just in words, but the books, the pictures, and now a live action character.
That's pretty cool. Last year Phineas did a series on character development on our Monday show with one of his puppets. With so many puppets, do you do your character development the same way as Phineas?
Well, let me start the answer to this by first prefacing this because everybody loves Phineas and all, and I have yet to actually meet him in person. He and I are Facebook friends. We chat on Instant Messenger sometimes. I watch him on the show, and I know he was doing that segment, but I maybe only caught 2 episodes of it, and I haven't had a chance to. I want to go back and rewatch that. I didn't get all of it. I hadn't retired at the time, and so sometimes I would, if I got off in time, I would pick y'all up in the car going home. But I had to drive. I couldn't really watch, and I live out in the county that only has 24,000 people, and not always the coverage is always that good. So the show would drop in and out. So I didn't quite get all of that. So I may be off base with my thought here. But the way I view Phineas is I think he is highly intelligent. He's a very smart person, very artistic, and he does his character development. He's got all his bases covered. And I've heard him talk about, he challenges people to have their mental image and know everything about, like when he was talking about the Santa's suit. Where is it? Is it in a closet? Is it one suit? Is it multiple suits? So he's very detail oriented, and just for lack of a better term, I would say Phineas's character development is very cerebral. Me, as you've already seen through my Kenny Wonka, we get back to Boggs Bunny. Do you know that when you met him in Gatlinburg, that's the first time I had him out in public?
I think you told me that, and I was amazed at that. I said, no way, and you said, no, it's the truth.
Yeah, and so every year at Santa School, I show up with a different puppet, and when I do that, that's the first time I have that puppet out in public working with people. And believe it or not, Bob, when you said, "Oh, you're Bugs Bunny," whatever, and I go, "No, that's my cousin Bugs Bunny." that interacted with you tripped me into saying, "Oh, he's Bog's Bunny. Oh, he's from the bog. He's from the bayou. He's a bayou bunny." And see how all that started just from improvising with you. All of that started falling into place, and so I do a lot of my character development just from working with a puppet and improvising with a puppet. And at some point, as far as voice and things of that nature go, they say that everybody has 248 different voices in their head. You know, like, follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road. You know, you have all these different voices that you can modulate.
Yeah.
And I say,
They're in there all the time talking to each other.
yes, you want me to do what? Oh, now? And so, so the way I approach it, or what I always say is, at some point, the puppet finds his voice, and the puppet will create his character. And so once that kind of sticks, because when my wife saw Bog's Bunny, she said, "Oh, he's wearing glasses. He's intelligent," or whatever. I said, "A rabbit eats carrots, and but he's wearing glasses. You think that's intelligent?" It's like, so she saw him one way. I saw him, a rabbit wearing glasses. That's crazy. He's a crazy rabbit. And so, my take on it was completely different, but it's what stuck to me. And now I start feeling it, and I start channeling through him. The one thing that I will say is, even though I do a lot of that with improv, I still try to, after I get some traction there, I kind of make it stick in my head to make sure I've got all my backstory bases covered. And this kind of applies not only to puppetry, but every story that you do as Santa Claus. And this is where I think Phineas and I kind of come back and merge together, is that I believe if you're going to do something story-wise, puppet or Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus, whoever, whatever character you are, it has to be believable. It's like if you say, "Well, I'm going to make all the kids in the world go to sleep at night when I'm going to sprinkle some dust on them," nobody's going to really believe that. If you go in and say, the answer to every question you ever get, "It's Christmas magic, kid." "Well, how do you go down the chimney?" "It's Christmas magic, kid." "How do you fly around the world in one night?" "It's Christmas magic, kid." If everything's Christmas magic, nothing's Christmas magic, And so your story has to be believable. And then if you're going to incorporate anything real, you probably ought to Google it and make sure it's accurate. And I'll tell you why. Because kids will fact check you. And I had this happen to me at an in-home visit. One of the props I have is something called a delayed choice quantum eraser, and it's a real fancy looking, hourglass. But and I use that as part of my, trip around the world in one night. And the delayed choice quantum eraser can slow or stop and affect time. Do you know that there really is such a thing? There's an experiment done in 2014 with the delayed choice quantum eraser, how they released two particles, and the first particle affected the outcome of the second particle. And so I was talking to this one boy at this in-home visit, and I was in this wing-back chair here, and there was a staircase over here, and a couch on this side, and straight down, it's one of those kind of small homes, straight down was the dining room where the parents were sitting around it. And so I was talking to this young boy about a delayed choice quantum eraser, and out of the corner of my eye, now he's only 6 or 7, but his older sister was around 11 or 12. And she had a little girlfriend from up the street from another home, and they were sitting together giggling, like little girls do when they're at that age. She had a smartphone. And when I'm talking about that delayed choice quantum eraser, and her mouth goes, and she looked at the phone, and she showed it to her friend, and her friend goes, and so she showed it over to her parents and looked back at me. And when the father walked me out to the car, he said, "I believe my daughter thinks you are the real Santa. You made her kind of believe." So when you incorporate something, I start off with improv stuff, but if I come back to something kind of real, make sure it's accurate. Because children in this day and age are different like we were. Yeah, we didn't have that little, and an 11, 12-year-old girl with a smartphone. So they got a lot of information to use. So that would be my one caveat, is make sure you're Google proof.
We had that big 20 26 set book of encyclopedias up on the shelf.
I had World Book.
Yeah. All right. It seems that more and more Santas are getting interested in puppetry, and I know you have taught classes on this subject. How can someone get into it if they can't talk without moving their lips?
That is a very good question, Spangle, because I think that's something that trips up a lot of performers, and you're rightly so. I see a lot of more performers getting into it. As a matter of fact, I think I saw Shaun White and Betsy were going to some puppet thing. I saw they post that on Facebook. I'm actually going to the Puppet Palooza at Unicoi State Park in North Georgia this weekend. It's all puppet guild, and we're going to have performers and classes and things of that nature. We'll be there Friday through Sunday, kind of like the Santa convention. We're a little crazier than Santas are. But a lot of people say, I would like to do puppetry, but I can't talk without moving my lips. And even though I got my first ventriloquist doll back in, I think it was 1972 or 73, and even though I can do ventriloquism, when I'm doing a Santa Claus with a puppet, I don't even bother. And I'm going to tell you why. Everybody, I think, knows Jeff Dunham. I mean, he's the best ventriloquist I've ever seen. And when he goes on stage, he's got all these characters, and he's on stage for an hour and 20 minutes, 2-hour show or whatever. And you can't help but sometimes look to see if his lips are moving, and I can see him load up his throat when he has to do something forceful and stuff. Nobody can, even as good as he is, sometimes you can still see him move his lips a little bit. But if you spend 5 minutes trying to catch Jeff Dunham moving his lips out of an hour and 20 minutes, you still got 115 minutes, and each one of his little segments and each one of his little characters there, if you miss 5 minutes of his show, you pick right back up and go. A puppet show should really be no more than 5 or 10 minutes of a visit. I do about 7-8 minutes with Barkley, my little blue spruce tree or what have you. And so if a child or a parent or whoever is trying to catch your lips moving for 5 minutes and they come in at the last 2 minutes of a 7-minute skit, they've missed out. And everything flows for that whole 7 minutes. It's not like this joke, this joke, this joke, and you miss this when you're fine on these other two. So I don't even make any bones about it. I just let them, are you moving the lips? All right, it's a puppet. And they don't even really pay attention. And all the year, I've been doing, since my very first event, I had puppets with me as Santa Claus. And in all that time, I've had one lady. I was at a lakeside community, and there were BMWs and Mercedes in the parking lot, the whole hoity-toity. Everybody had their fancy Gucci purses and whatever it is they have now. And I was using my little elf puppet, Blinky, and she goes, I could see her lips moving, and I just looked at her and said, "Oh, yeah, that's a puppet, and it's not I'm not a ventriloquist, doing ventriloquist, I'm doing puppetry, and this is a puppet, it's like a doll, I make toys," and it's like, you do know he's not alive, don't you? And when I told her, I said, "You do know he's not alive, don't you?" She goes, "Oh yeah, I knew that." And so I put her in her place a little bit there, and she didn't bother me the rest of that party. But if you don't try to hide the fact that you're moving your lips and you're trying to do ventriloquism and you slip up or whatever, you kind of make Santa, he's no longer infallible. Oh, I called Santa making a mistake or whatever. I think you kind of degrade Santa a little bit there. And if people do gotcha. I've even had parents try to do gotchas in front of the kids. They're supposed to be part of our, mystique. And so I don't even do ventriloquism when I'm doing Christmas performance with a puppet. So if that is a limiting factor and the reason that I can't even do that, don't let it be. You're doing puppetry, not ventriloquism, and so it's open to anybody who wants to pick it up and run with it.
Yeah. Well, as I was mentioning earlier, when I did puppets like in my magic shows and things like this, I would have the puppet talk into my ear, and then I would say what the puppet was saying.
Yep.
And that's how I went about it. And then I've had a child, mock me sometimes. Well, that's a puppet, and I just kind of put my hands over the puppet's ears. and I'll say, listen, you know it's a puppet. I know it's a puppet, but he doesn't know he's a puppet, okay? So let's just go on with that.
Yep. And you know, a puppet is a toy. What am I? I'm a toy making elf.
Right.
Of course. You know, and so you can kind of blow that off. It doesn't have to be a limiting factor if you can't do ventriloquism.
Right. Good. Very good.
That's pretty cool. You know, since you don't have to be a ventriloquist to get into puppetry, so in that case, what advice would you give to new Claus performers that want to get into puppetry?
Practice.
Well, get a charge card. No. Well, you know, like Spangle touched on earlier, I've taught puppetry at Santa schools and stuff. You know, the 1 hour class, and it was so well received. Everybody loved it that they had me back last spring and did another class on it. So, you know, I can't cover 2 hours of puppetry here in a 2 minute, 5 minute answer. You know, so let me just kind of say this: if you're going to get into puppetry, and you know I kind of take it seriously. I started doing puppet ministry back in the mid '80s. I'm going to the Puppet Palooza. I do a puppet show with one of the former directors of the here at the Atlanta School of Puppetry Arts. So I'm kind of a little serious about it, but yeah, I've worked with other Christmas performers in certain situations, and you know, you see things posted online where people have a Santa to their in-home visit or whatever, and the customer, the client, is the one who's posting the video and stuff. So we kind of get a window into that. And the one thing that I see so often is people use puppetry more as a gimmick. They just flap it around out there, and so. For instance, if I'm talking here with Puppet and it's doing like this right here, you know, he's not in time with what I'm doing. He doesn't even look real, and so they're flapping it around. The puppet's head's all over the place, and it doesn't look believable. And I think sometimes they think their puppet's so cute it's going to carry the day. So if you're going to get into puppetry, you know, we're supposed to be professional Santa Clauses. So treat the puppetry aspect with professionalism, and don't treat it as a gimmick. First off, and that gets to some of the realism. And you saw where I was just flapping my hand around out there. And so you want to kind of make the puppet mimic human kind of behavior. Now, one thing with children, NASA did a study, and 5-year-old children in this study, 98% of them tested at genius level for imagination. They did the same test with adults, and only 2% of adults tested at genius level imagination. So, you know, over the course of time, we kind of lose that imagination. Maybe we're jaded by life. We start to understand what's real, what's not. And so children have a much, much more vivid imagination. So you want to try to make that puppet move somewhat realistically, and kind of the way that we do that is like if I'm talking to Bob or I'm talking to Spangle or the puppet's talking to me, we're making eye contact. We call this in puppetry eye focus. And so if Zoomer here is going to talk to you guys, he would turn around and look at you. You know, people who are doing it kind of gimmicky wind up, you'll so often see their eyeballs going up to the ceiling. Who are you looking at up there? You know, that's not realist.
He
So,
kind of looks like he's having a hard time focusing.
Alice and Skittles, the red and yellow are my favorite. Ah! So, hey, who's attention? What do you mean, who's attention? I brought $5 because I'm supposed to pay attention. No, you have to focus. You have to concentrate. Oh, you mean like on the orange juice? And so, when he's talking to me, he's looking at me. When he's talking to you guys, he's looking at you guys. He's not looking up here at the ceiling. So if you're going to get into puppetry, you know, really, yeah, and his mouth doesn't flap as we talk. It opens one time per syllable. So if I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you see, he opened his mouth twice. So that's how you would actually, you know, kind of talk. And when you talk, your bottom jaw drops. We call this the thumb drop. The thumb controls the jaw. So his head kind of stays here looking at you, and the thumb drops. So you get those little pieces right, and I don't have time to go into all those details, but make sure your puppet, has some realism. The other thing is, when I say get out your checkbook, because I got like 50 puppets, some people will get, well, I'm going to get one puppet, or, I love Axel puppets, and maybe some of them would be $300 to $500. Well, I can't afford but one $500 puppet, so I'm going to give it multiple personalities. Over here it's going to be this, and over here it's going to be that, and over here he's going to be somber, over here he's going to be happy, and what'll happen is you'll crisscross those personalities. So once you do your character development, I would recommend that every one of my puppets has one character, one characteristic, one backstory, and so keep it a 1-to-1 character per puppet. Practice. You only get good at a skill if you practice it. And I used to practice, and I can do that with my hand. I can talk with my hand just like I can now here. And so I used to have a 42-mile commute, so I'd practice in the car. People at traffic lights looked at me funny, but so make sure you practice. The other thing you can do, there's puppet guilds. It doesn't have to, if they're, I went to Santa school, they didn't teach puppetry, but a lot of cities have puppet guilds and all that you can get into if you want to kind of practice and get good at this. And I'm going to end with this. The last point I would make to somebody getting into puppetry is, if you do a 1 hour in-home show and you do 7 to 10 minutes per puppet, I got 10 puppets, so I can do a whole in-home puppet show. I don't recommend that. And my very first year of Santa Claus, I was trying to find who and what I was. And I talked to you in the green room. I didn't have business cards when I went to my first Santa school. But then Larry Talbert, who does the King Insurance, he also sells magic. And I loved magic and puppets growing up. And so I said, Santa Ken Kringle, the magic of Christmas. And I even did 1 hour magic shows that year. And when I went back to school the next year, I was going to impress my mentor and say, how'd your first season go? Oh, yeah, I was doing 1 hour magic shows. Pound my chest, And he said, Ken, if you do 1 hour magic shows dressed up as Santa Claus, and you do a lot of the tricks the children see in library programs at school, or clowns do at the fair, and stuff like that, he says, you become a magician in a red suit. You're not Santa Claus, you're a magician in a red suit. And so I take that and I morph it into puppetry. If you get so enamored with puppetry and you love puppetry, and I've got 7 or 8 of them, and that's all you want to do, you become a puppeteer in a red suit. So sprinkle in a little puppetry, a little magic, a little storytelling, but don't make your whole performance puppetry. So that's what I would tell somebody new.
Yeah, see, I do some magic when I'm Santa, but I don't put it on as a show. Yep. I just try to make something magical happen while I'm doing something.
Well, like one of the things I did last year at the Great Wolf Lodge is, you've seen the little box where you open it up and it's empty, and you close it and you open it back up and it's full. Well, I've got an elf that the female version is this big. 24-inch elf that goes in there. And so I tell all the children, hey, you want to see my elf? And open it up and the box is empty, and they're all, it's empty. And then, so I go through this whole thing. I got another box with an antique phone, like Barney Fife, hey, connect me to Thelma Lou. And I have Bernard put fairy dust on the elf, and send it to me, and I do the thumb light and pull it off a child's shoulder, and I throw it in the box and I open it up, and then there's my elf on the shelf. And so I kind of open with that. That's kind of a magic trick, but I incorporate a whole Christmas story into it. But then I'm done. I don't do any more magic. That's it. I've done my one mystical kind of thing. Because the more you do, every now and then you'll mess up, and then you take away the magic of being Santa Claus.
Very nice.
Yep. All right. We've kept up with the comments pretty much, but I do have a few here. And I guess Randall might not have heard us talking about this, but he wanted to know if you get a turkey, and I think you responded, no, you did not.
No, but then I didn't have to deal with it either. So
I, I think you said you saw one, but it was on your way back. Excuse
Yeah,
me.
we were down there for like a week, and they just weren't. I didn't hear a single gobble, and I walked and covered ground, got within 100 yards of the truck, ready to pack it up and head back north. Saw a hen 100 yards from the truck on the last day.
Like I said, that's the way it goes, isn't it? Another one from Trish. She says, "Hi, Green. Kate, great to have you on the show." Which that
Oh,
was one of the comments before her other comments that we had showed earlier.
well, like I said in one of the stories from Gatlinburg, she's partially responsible for some of this.
Bill Coach says, "Great free commercial, Ken." Talking about you doing the stuff for Santa commercial.
Well, I like to have something in my pocket. I hear that in my sleep.
Just remember to get your ice pad and go on their website.
Mrs. Claus, have you got my ice pad? I
You know,
could
and
use
I always liked how he said ice pad instead of an Apple product.
Well, I think y'all Thermopyl advertises with you guys. I have a chestnut orchard with 400 chestnut trees. As a matter of fact, Santa Mel got some of my chestnuts last year, and I actually use my Thermopyl Santa vest over at the orchard during the summer because it is hot.
Very nice. Speaking of thermopyl, that might be a good lead in for our next segment here. So stay with us. We'll be right back on the other side.
Ho, 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 ho!
Shop Thermo Apparel. They're wonderful. They're fantastic. And for the coolest of cool Santas or Easter bunnies, remember Thermo Apparel.
Don't just be cool as an attitude. Keep cool, literally.
Thermopyl! Be cool! Ho, 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 ho!
All right, let's reveal tonight's trivia answers. We do have winners, correct, Angela?
We do.
All right, fantastic.
Hold on, who do we got here?
Oh, what
Is that Mrs.
that's
Claus?
Mrs. Claus.
Oh, Santa, I have your ice pad. That looks more like a roll of paper towels than an ice pad. You noticed? Oh, got my ice pad.
Need an ice pad for that, right?
Yeah.
All right, our trivia was, you don't know what you're saying, said Edgar Bergen. The dummy answered, yes, I do, Bergen. I can read your lips. What is the name of that dummy? And our answer there was D, Charlie McCarthy. Our winner,
Charlie Johnson.
Charlie Johnson. CJ gets that one. Fantastic, Charlie. Your name goes in the hat for both the NPC drawing and the School of Santa's drawing. So Shari Lewis is best known for her puppet. And of course, I think everybody probably knew this one. Lamb Chop, answer C, Lamb Chop, winner.
Charlie Johnson again.
Charlie Johnson gets his name in there a couple of times. How about that? All right. And then our last extra credit was she created a character in 1956 during her appearance on the television show Captain Kangaroo. And
AJ.
AJ got that one. How about that? CJ and AJ, they're on the stick tonight, aren't they? How about that? All right. At this point, let's go ahead and play our Cherry Hill promo. Thanks to Santa Central, as always. They support School of Santas, North Pole Cornerstones, and they also support all the TNL network. We appreciate everything they do.
And in general, they support the whole Santa community.
They do. They do. They absolutely do. And, they're even doing a program up there with Mike Hutchins and the guys up in Canada this weekend. So very nice. All right, go ahead and run that.
Angie's Originals, custom Christmas attire since 2015. Your all-in-one wardrobe shop. Shop at angiesoriginals.com.
All right, Spangle, what is your closing thoughts on tonight's show? And
Well, I think my closing thoughts on tonight's show is I've been around a lot of people doing puppets, and I think a lot of these puppets have more personalities than a lot of the people I know.
yeah, you could say that again. That's for sure. Well,
Hey, anyways, we want to thank Ken Kringle for coming to the show and sharing his expertise tonight. I think there's going to be at least one or two of these people watching the show going out to buy a puppet tomorrow.
well, and that was kind of my final thoughts on the whole scenario. Also, a lot of folks say, well, you're not a puppeteer. Santa should do Santa. We all do Santa in our own way. You do you, I do me, and we all do Santa the way we want to do it. And any way that you can be an entertainer and entertain the children, the adults. Hey, who didn't get entertainment out of tonight's show? I mean, absolutely a fantastic show, Ken. Thank you so much. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot. Your DJ name was Cody?
Cody Stevens.
Cody Stevens. I don't know if anybody was around back in the day, but they might remember you from the radio. But we thought we would throw that out there.
Well, I was married. I was married at the time, and sometimes you get phone calls from people that want to meet you. So, and back in those days, we had the yellow pages, so had to be someone different.
Absolutely. And I don't know many DJs that, ever went by their real name. They always had their on radio personality names. And
Absolutely.
that's the way it is. And so thank you so much for coming on, man. And we want to say tune in, kick up your heels, join in the fun for 2026, all powered by TNL Network Productions. We run a promo at the end of the show that shows the times and the different shows that we have in our network. If you're not familiar with them, stick around and watch that. I want to say thank you, School of Santas, Stuffer Santas, King Insurance, North Pole Cornerstone, Santa Nana, Nationwide Santas, Caboose, Thumb Apparel, Holiday Photo Magic. Special thank you to Jessica Lamb for that one for the season, and Angie's Original, as well as Cherry Hill Programs, Santa Central. As Spangle mentioned, they do a lot for the community. One of the top Santa programs out there, and of course they put Santas in the mall like myself, and give us a good place to to spend our Christmas each year and entertain the children. But they have really stepped up their game. The new ambassador program, which I'm fortunate and privileged enough to be part of that, going to be a fantastic program. They have really stepped up and are doing things within the Santa community now that nobody's ever done, and our hats off to them. Thank you guys over at Cherry Hill.
Oh, my hair came off with my hat. Sorry.
All right. Tell everyone good night, Spangle.
Good night, Spangle.
Remember to join us for our next Tuesday Night Live Tuesday Night Live on at 7 p.m. each week. Same Claus time, same Claus channel. Count your blessings, not your sorrows. Hope to see everyone back here. Don't forget to check us out on Monday. Watch all the other shows during the week. Each show has had some fantastic content on lately. Good night, all. Again, stick around. We'll see you in the green room.